Hey guys, and welcome to the first edition of Western Art Music for the Average Listener. Now first off, I'd like to clarify something. The reason that I'm calling it Western art music and not classical music is because there's actually a classical period of Western art music, which is the music of Mozart and Haydn and those kinds of composers, and I don't want to get that confused. Anyway, today what we're going to be covering is a lot of basic topics just to get everybody caught up to speed before we actually get into the meat of what I want to cover in this program. So, if you've taken any music theory courses, you probably won't need this segment, but I'm going to teach it anyway, just so that everybody's on a level playing field. So, to start off with, Western art music in the classical and romantic eras, which is what we're going to be covering in this segment, is called tonal music, which means that it's based on scales. There are two main kinds of scales, even though they explored some in the very late Romantic era. The major scale sounds like this, and the minor scale sounds like this. Now you guys may also be familiar with what we call solfege, better known to the general public as do, re, mi, and those are just names for the scale degrees. So we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now there are three very important scale degrees that you have to know, and these also have other names that describe their functions. So do is known as the tonic, and this is basically the one note that everything in an entire piece is going to be based around. Everything in the scale, everything in the phrases, everything is centered around do. Now there's another very important note, so, which is called the dominant, and the important thing about the dominant is that it's considered the second to last thing that happens before the tonic, and it really makes the tonic very clear. You may be familiar with what we call descending fifths, which sound like this. And so, when you hear descending fifths, automatically your ear, if you've been listening to pop music or anything like that, is probably going to go so, do, even if you don't know the names of these notes. Now the next important note is called the leading tone, also called T in solfege. T is also an important note that leads always to do. So when you hear, you're probably going to hear T do even if you don't know the names again. You may be familiar with common really stereotypical ways to end pieces. So you hear do, so, ti, do. And that's, a very, very strong way to end a piece. Some of you may also be familiar with the concept of chords. These are typically triads, which means they have three notes, and the way that you build one is by playing one note in the scale, skipping a scale step, playing the next note, skipping the next scale step, and playing that note. And so you'll get something that sounds like this. So, if you have a chord where the bottom note is do, then you'll have what we call a tonic triad. Because do is the tonic, and the triad is built off of it.